Spinosaurus. Say that name out loud. It doesn't just sound dangerous. It sounds final. The largest land predator ever to walk this earth. Longer than a school bus, heavier than a loaded truck, and armed with a skull built not for show, but for destruction. But here's the twist. Spinosaurus didn't follow the rules other predators lived by. It crossed between land and water. Two worlds, two hunting grounds, no escape. Most predators owned one territory. Spinosaurus owned wherever it stood. And what came after it? That's where it gets uncomfortable. Tyrannosaurus Rex. The name alone has ended conversations for decades. 12 meters of focused destruction, 6 tons of mass, and a bite force that didn't just break bones. It consumed them. Bone was not an obstacle. It was the meal. But the movies missed something important. T-Rex wasn't just power. It was patience. Forward-facing eyes gave it depth perception most predators never had. A sense of smell sharp enough to track death from kilometers away. It didn't always sprint after prey. It didn't need to. It waited. It calculated. It chose the easiest kill and committed completely. That's not brute force. That's intelligence wearing a predator's body. But here's what most people never ask. What happened when something equally massive stood across from it? Carcharodontosaurus, shark-toothed lizard. The name is not metaphor, it is a description. This predator roamed North Africa 95 million years ago, nearly as long as T-Rex, but built differently. Where T-Rex crushed, Carcharodontosaurus sliced. Serrated teeth designed to tear through flesh in a single pass. Not to hold, not to grip, to remove. It hunted massive sauropods, dinosaurs that dwarfed everything around them, and it won, regularly. But here's the detail that changes everything. Its brain was small, no calculated patience, no strategic waiting. What it had instead was commitment. Pure, relentless, forward-moving aggression. It didn't adapt mid-hunt. It didn't need to. Once it moved, it didn't stop. And in the same continent, at nearly the same time, something else was doing the exact same thing. Bigger. Giganotosaurus. South America's answer to a question nobody wanted asked. Possibly the largest theropod ever measured. Longer than T-Rex by a meaningful margin. And here's where it gets genuinely unsettling. Evidence suggests Giganotosaurus may have hunted in groups. Not the coordinated pack strategy of wolves. Something more basic, more overwhelming. Multiple apex predators converging on a single target. Titanosaurs, the largest land animals that ever existed. And they were the prey. Think about that. The biggest creatures to ever walk the planet were being hunted. There was no size large enough to guarantee safety. No weight that bought protection. Giganotosaurus rewrote the math on what prey could look like. But the predators on this list didn't only come in the form of massive theropods. Some came low to the ground, patient, scaled. Megalania, Australia's nightmare. And Australia does not produce mild wildlife. This was a monitor lizard. That sentence sounds manageable until the dimensions land. Over 7 meters long. Potentially 600 kilograms of muscle, scale, and teeth. The largest lizard ever to walk on land. But here's the worst part. Megalania almost certainly carried venom. Not the theatrical kind. The kind that worked slowly, quietly. An attack didn't need to be fatal in the moment. The wound finished the job. Its prey bled, weakened, and eventually stopped running. Megalania simply followed. Unhurried, inevitable. And it did this during a period when humans had already arrived in Australia. We were there. We shared that continent with this animal. Some of our ancestors didn't survive that overlap. But patience as a weapon wasn't unique to Megalania. The next predator on this list turned waiting into an art form. Smilodon. No pack, no size advantage, no venom, just precision. Those fangs reached nearly 30 centimeters. They were not for crushing. They were not for gripping. They were engineered for a single, perfectly placed strike to the throat. Everything about Smilodon was built around that one moment. The ambush, the coiled stillness, the explosive launch. One chance. Because here's the risk nobody talks about. Those fangs were fragile. Hit bone at the wrong angle and the weapon shattered. There was no recovery from that. No second hunt. So Smilodon had to be right. Every single time. That's not strength, the way we usually define it. That's strength with no margin for error. And while Smilodon was perfecting the land ambush, something far larger was making the riverbanks the most dangerous territory on Earth. Deinosuchus. Terrible crocodile. Not named for drama. Named accurately. This animal reached up to 12 meters in length, weighed potentially 8 tons, and it didn't hunt in open water. It hunted the edge, the crossing point, that narrow strip where land animals came to drink and the river came to take them. Deinosuchus lived during the Cretaceous, alongside the dinosaurs, and it ate them, not scavenged, hunted. Tooth marks from Deinosuchus bites have been found on dinosaur bone. The evidence is not ambiguous. Here's the detail that resets everything. It was patient beyond what seems possible for something that size, motionless, invisible at the surface. And then, in a fraction of a second, 8 tons launched from the water and dragged an animal back in. Once those jaws closed, the physics of escape no longer applied. But if Deinosuchus was fear at the waterline, the final predator on this list was fear with 4 legs and a skull the size of a dining table. Velociraptor. Thanks to movies, everyone thinks this thing was 2 meters tall and hunted in packs like wolves. Reality check. It was the size of a turkey. About half a meter tall at the hip, 2 meters long including the tail, weighing around 15 kilograms. But don't laugh. That sickle-shaped claw on each foot could slash through flesh like a box cutter. It didn't disembowel prey in one swipe like the films show, but it could pin down smaller animals and tear them apart. Fossil evidence shows it had feathers, making it look less like a scaly monster and more like a very angry murder chicken. It lived 75 million years ago in what's now Mongolia, hunting lizards, small mammals, and anything it could overpower. Some fossils show Velociraptor locked in combat with Protoceratops, frozen mid-fight for eternity. Talk about dying on the job. If you made it this far, you've walked through 8 of the most powerful land predators that ever existed. Now subscribe, drop a like, hit the bell, and tell me in the comments, which one of these do you think was truly the strongest?